Hello everyone, this is Maria from MLB Reborns. I am making this video per someone's request on Facebook, and they're basically telling me, how do I get started with this hobby? And they want to start making reborns and selling them online. I created reborns from the beginning to try to sell them and to have my daughters enjoy a collection without having to spend a lot of money. And I fell in love with the hobby and I wanted to try it out. So in the beginning, I think most people don't realize what exactly is needed and what steps to take to get started. So I am on here to give everyone my 7 top tips for beginners. So without any further ado, I will go ahead and get started on the list. Number 1, count the cost. This is not a cheap hobby by any means. Prepare yourself to invest between $200 and $500, depending on the kit you buy. What type of paints you will be using. Are they going to be acrylics, air dry paints, heat set paints? And if you decide to use heat set paints, you might need to purchase an oven. And I do not use my home oven. I purchased a halogen oven because the vinyl itself does put out this oily substance that will attach to the oven that you're using. So I encourage you to buy a completely separate oven for the purpose of baking your babies. And I have another video that I made not too long ago showing the type of oven that I use myself. So that's number 1. Tip number 2, purchase an inexpensive kit. Do not spend a lot of money on a limited edition or sold out edition kit to reborn on your first attempt. Purchase a kit that you can ruin completely and not shed a tear over it. I have ruined some kits, but I've never purchased an expensive kit that has cost me over $50. I have burned kits, I have painted kits to where the limbs do not match with the color on the head, and this is another tip that's not on my list, but I will give you. Always make sure that you use the same batch of paint to complete the entire session of painting for the kit. So make sure you make enough paint where you can apply it to the head and every limb and the belly plate if you have it, from the same batch. Otherwise, if you have to make another batch of paint, the paint color may be a little off, and that's what happened to me. I was making a biracial baby, and when I looked at it, the head looked a lot darker than the limbs. And because I mix my own paints, I had no way of knowing exactly at what point the shade on the head or the limbs started to change. And so I basically ruined that kit, and I ended up letting my daughters play with it for a while, and then I gave it away to a neighbor who liked the baby, and I think she gave it away to her daughter. So that's what happened with that one. So I have cried over kits that I've ruined, and they were inexpensive kits. So I can only imagine investing $100 to $200 on a limited edition only to have something go wrong. It would devastate me. So I encourage you to not spend more than $50 on a kit when you are beginning this journey. Painted or rooted hair. My suggestion is neither one. Instead, invest all your energy and time into painting the kit from head to toe and making it as beautiful as possible as a baldy. Once you're completed with painting the kit and you're happy with those results and you want to tackle the painting or rooting process, then you can go ahead and do that. But make sure you pay attention to the head. I have had people tell me that when they received their baby and over time their baby lost some of the hair on the head, there wasn't any paint underneath the head. So people sometimes think, well, I'm going to be rooting the head, so why do I need to invest the time into putting any veining or any mottling or any paint for that matter on top of the head if it's going to be covered with either paint or hair? Do not go into this process thinking that you're going to do either or. Paint it as a baldy. Give it the attention it needs on the head, the shading, the mottling, the veining, the stork bites if you choose to give it some, and just make it beautiful as a baldy. Once you're done with it, then you can consider whether or not you want to take the steps necessary to add either hair or painted hair. And this baby may be beautiful as a baldy. And always remember, you're starting out, so your painting of the hair is going to take a lot of practice. So do you want to have a beautiful baldy, or do you want to have something that's less than beautiful if you mess up on the painting of the hair or the rooting? And for example, when I first started rooting, you've seen one of my first babies. That rooting was not good. It was not up to par with some of the painting that I do now. So, consider that when you start your new babies. Just make sure that you pay attention to the detailing of the head, and you might find out that you love it as a baldy, and you just can keep practicing. And then, after your second or third baby, then you can take on the rooting, but you will already feel comfortable doing some of the painting. So taking baby steps, I think, is what I'm trying to say. Don't try to do everything at once. Give it some eyelashes and try the rooting process with the eyelashes. Ladies, rooting is not easy, and it does take a lot of practice. So don't ruin your baby by trying to root before it's time. So that was my tip number 3. Tip number 4, do not give up. This hobby is not for the faint of heart. It will not reward you with instant gratification. Prepare yourself to invest countless hours before seeing any results. You are going to paint between 6 and 8 layers of paint, and it's still going to look almost like a blank kit unless you're doing a biracial baby. And you don't realize how much different it looks from the original vinyl until you start adding those mottling layers and those blushing layers, and then I can't really explain what happens, but the time that you invested on those initial skin tone colors will come out and will shine through all of the other layers that you will be putting on top of it. So do not give up. Just trust the process and take every step that you need to take in order to get to the finish line. Tip number 5, attention to detail is key. Smudging and pooling are the enemy, and you must keep them at bay by paying attention to what you're doing. So do not rush through the process. Pay attention to every single crease on your baby. You get your kit and you look at it and you think, oh my gosh, this kit is beautiful. Look at all those creases. Look at all those wrinkles, and you just fall in love with the kit. And you have to realize that all those creases and all those wrinkles will need extra special attention when you're painting it, because the paint does tend to pool inside those crevices. And if you do not get to that paint and blot it off or blend it, that paint can set. And especially when you're baking your baby, you know, if you are applying paint to a leg and you do not sponge it the way you're supposed to, then you may end up with a big area where it looks like a smudge of paint. And I have seen some of these babies on eBay, and I'm thinking that the time it needed was not invested into it to make sure that all of the paint is blended throughout the kit and all of those crevices are blotted and blended so that it looks like a smooth color on the baby and not all these streaky paintbrush looking errors on it. So keep that in mind. Buy a thermometer. This is tip number 6. Buy a thermometer. Buy 2. No matter how reliable you think your oven is, it can malfunction at any time. It has happened to me at least 3 times. Keep an eye on the temperature and invest in a couple of thermometers to make sure your baby does not burn. And I do not walk away from my oven. Okay, I keep my oven right next to my sink in my kitchen. I have a small house. I do not have a reborning studio. All of the work I do in my kitchen. So when I'm baking the baby, I'll be washing dishes right next to it so that I can keep an eye on that thermometer so that the temperature does not go either below 265 or over 275. And that is the perfect temperature gauge to keep it at, is 265 and 275. At 275, I will turn it off, let it cool down back to 65, and then turn it back on. And I bake my babies for 9 minutes. So in 9 minutes, I may turn it off 3 times because it starts going over that 275. So really keep an eye on your oven. And I know that Bountiful Baby has an oven that's very popular in the reborn industry, and I cannot remember the name of it. I should have written it down. But I know that I've seen a couple of videos where that oven malfunctions and burns a baby. And sad to say, some of those babies were expensive babies. They were expensive limited edition kits. And so I would hate to have that happen to you. So invest in a couple of thermometers, keep an eye on your temperature, don't walk away. So when you're sitting down to do a reborn session and you're using an oven, just keep in mind that it's going to be a couple hours, 3-hour process. So block out that time to really pay attention to the painting and the baking process. And my last tip is have fun. Enjoy the process even when you mess up. You are going to mess up. There is something that you're going to do to your baby that you're going to wish you hadn't done. I have had, I've sold several babies as boo-boo babies because these things have happened to me. I smudged an area on the leg of one of my babies, and I had to sell it as a boo-boo baby because I baked the kit and there was a big smudge on the leg where I didn't blot out the paint. I sold a baby that had a birthmark right by the lip on the chin. Because, why? Because I didn't blot out the paint. And that was recently, ladies. I've been doing this for 4 years. And it's still something that I have to watch out for. So, but when you love the hobby, even when you mess up, you just have so much fun. And it is the process that you enjoy, not the finished product. So let me say that again. When you are a reborn artist, you enjoy the process either as much or almost more than having that finished baby. The finished baby is the finish line, but you enjoy getting there and you can't rush it. I have participated in half marathons, and if you do not love running, then you're going to hate doing 13.1 miles. But if you enjoy the process, you will enjoy the finish line a lot more. You know, I've completed 3, and that finish line was like the best. You get your medal and you just feel so good about having done something that not a lot of people do. So the reborn process is just that. We are a group of people that love this hobby. And I just want to encourage you, if you are going to do this, just follow my tips and you will succeed. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoy this video. Give it a thumbs up, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.